the ladder match or the TLC match or however you guys want to go about this process. Well, let's talk about 17 specifically because that was so lights out. And Lita, like you said, Rhino, Lita, Spike, the bumps that all of y'all took. And Lita was so cool back in the day. I mean, when she come down and she kind of had that high G-string thong thing on her pants, she had that cool factor. She was like punk, cool, sexy. And of course, she was badass. She was a great worker. Spike comes down, hits both of you guys with his finish. Jay, you both took some crazy bumps, safe bumps. But that, whatever his finish is called, off the apron, through that table, and then here comes Rhino, and then who was he? Was that Jay? Was that you on his shoulders to get that belt?
Yeah, he put me on the shoulders, and it was a funny story because like when we were at the building the night before, just going over, just tying up some loose ends, just kind of because it's different when you're in that. It sounds strange, but it's true. When you're in that big of a space, it's sometimes timing can be an issue.
Oh,
and so we're just trying to get some timing down on some certain things, and we're all laying there kind of talking about it after. Everyone's kind of sitting there and said, "Hold on a second, Jay, you don't have any offense in this match. We need to rethink some stuff." I was like, "Hell no." I was like, "I don't want any." I said, "Rhino's carrying me up at the end. I'm grabbing the titles. That's all the heat I need."
But that's a great thought. But put me in a room with you guys when you're trying to lay this thing out because literally, I mean, you're just watching the match. If there's any calls, it's all protected. And you guys have set this thing up. But it's not like you're getting any run-throughs, man. This was 17. It's a whole lot different than what's going on. So obviously you've had experience. You've worked with these guys a couple of times. There's got to be a super high level of trust, and it looked like you guys are just, everything's being laid in, but you're taking care of each other, and there's a high level of trust. When you got 6 guys, and then you have these 3 other components coming in to contribute to this match, which was totally off the charts. How you guys go about setting this thing up? You do this, I'm going to do that, and just how the process goes, because there's down periods after big bumps, action periods, different guys trying to ascend up, get those belts. I've never had a match like that. I had a ladder match with Vince and Shane one time. It was adrenaline shits. As soon as they told me we're going to have a ladder match, I'm thinking like step ladders, right? Because, I didn't need to be off the ground. So, I've never been involved in anything like this. So you take me through that process. And who commands the floor?
We realized if it was going to have any lasting power and if people were going to stay engaged and wanted to see these matches, we couldn't just let them be car crashes, which maybe a couple of the early ones were. They were just kind of everything really, it sounds weird, but we were trying to get some psychology in these matches, like a reason to actually do certain things, not just like, well, why is he setting up a chair here when everybody's over there? Like, you try to make everything logical why you're doing certain things, and that was the challenge. So a lot of times, and you have 6 guys in there with all that have ideas and are creative guys and feel strongly that their opinions are the right ones. So there were times where, we'd be in arguments about stuff, and it wasn't coming from a place of anybody being mad at each other. It was a place of passion where we all cared so much about this that we were willing to argue our points. And then at the end of it, we'd figure it out how to make everybody's ideas work. And then we'd go out there and, like you said, no matter where we were at back there, we had 100% trust in each other. And, that's also a lifelong bond that we're all going to have together too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there were times when we'd butt heads, but it was always to try and get what we all felt was going to be best. And that can be tough with 6 people to try and get this, unanimous thing. It wasn't going to be that way. And the chemistry of the teams, the way it kind of worked is Matt would be the talking guy for the Hardys and mostly the idea guys, and it was Bubba for the Dudleys. For us, it was both Jay and I, where we would both come to the table with a lot of ideas and a lot of, and Jeff and Devon just aren't wired that way, and that was fine. Jeff would come up with a massive idea, and then we would go, okay, how can we work this in? How can we have this try and make some semblance of sense? And then we also had Michael Hayes as our agent, and he's a huge part of it too, man, because we would all just sit down and just throw these ideas at the wall and see what stuck or resonated with the majority of us anyway, and then try and appease everybody and make it work. But like Jay said, try to have things make sense, but at the same time, I wanted those things to look like a tornado had been through a trailer park after. Like, to me, the best visual is after WrestleMania 17. Just take a look at the ring. Take a look at the bodies everywhere. Take a look at the ladders that are broken, the tables destroyed. All right, mission accomplished. That's what it needs to look like after this match. And I've said it repeatedly. I think we all went too far. We really did. But that it was our mentality of just trying to get noticed. And then once we went far, then we had to one up ourselves, because then it was like, well, now we're going to do TLC 2. And now we're, and it's like, okay, now what do we do? How do we top this again?
And I'll tell you this too, Steve, like the real challenge is not even so much the ladder match stuff, but it's there's a real fine line of being labeled just guys that do gimmick matches. That when you go out to do a proper match and you go out to put some time in and you're trying to tell a story and take people on the ride, where it's like, well, he's not going through a table, or he's not getting hit with a chair, he's not falling off a ladder, I'm not really interested. It's like there's a fine line there where you have to be able to separate that, hey, these guys can go when they're not falling off stuff. So that was a challenge as well.
Oh, dude, you're 100% correct, because, you can book yourself into a corner, but then, like you said, once you guys said, hey, man, let's keep this thing together, you started coming up with kind of the heel swing and the attitude as we were right on the back end of that era. You became more character-based rather than, hey, man, there's a lot of guys you can go out there, or not a lot of guys, but some guys that do get labeled as, hey, man, if this guy's got to work a straight match, it's not going to be so good because he's a gimmick match guy.
Yeah, and that was one of the things we knew with our promo work and our character work and just our, the 5-second poses and things like that. It's like, okay, this is what can now make us different. Those matches proved that we can do all that stuff. So if you put us in any situation, whether it's just a straight up tag team match, which was our personal favorite, is just, give us 20 minutes with a great tag team and let us do what a tag team match can do if it's done right. But if you need a TLC match, okay, we can do that too. We wanted to be like that multi-tooled team, that you could put into any situation. We worked The Rock and Undertaker and for the titles, and then we'd do a TLC match, and then we'd work the APA, and then we'd work Too Cool. And then we just wanted to be that team that you could plug into any situation and we could get what you needed done for you.
I was just gonna say, backing up to when you were talking about what I learned from Dory, and there was something there, like when I was in his class, there was kind of a thread with me and him that whenever he wanted to demonstrate something, he would pull me aside and demonstrate something for the class. Whenever there was something that he wanted done with, a certain different size, because there was all different sizes of guys, and there was monsters in there. There was guys that were 6'4", there was guys that were smaller than me, there were guys that were my size. The majority of the time he was asking me to do a short match with this person or do a spot or do something like that. So in my head I was like, well, there's a reason for this. And one of the things I learned was, at our size, I might not necessarily be great at one thing, but I need to be good at everything. And that was kind of what I took away from him. And that's one of the tools that I use going forward, that at my size, I really had to be able to adapt to any style that I was in the ring with. And that was what I took away from him.
In that match, it looked, I might be getting, it might have been the match, it might have been the year before, when Bubba Ray put the ladder over his head, started spinning it into everybody. It looked like he took a pretty good shot there. Jay, did you get dinged on that?
No, I didn't actually. It was I just I got my hands up last second and took a little snap bump. So, and luckily too with the long hair, you could kind of, you get away with a lot more with the long hair, right? You just throw the hair back, and it gave the illusion that something. And the big thing is sound, right? Like sometimes if something is hitting something like a chair or a ladder, when you got bumped them, if it rattles or makes a noise, that will resonate not only to the front row, to the middle of the arena, but to the top of the arena, and that people react to that. So, I think that too with the sound of the smack and the hair whipping back, I think it just, it was always made for really cool moments.
Adam, did you come out of those things unscathed with regards to your neck? Because, both of you took some crazy bumps, and Jay, you missed, or I guess was intentional, on that triple letter spot in the middle. But Adam, did you come out of these things okay, or did they contribute to, your neck issues?
At the time I thought I did, but if I really trace it back, I think that has to be where it started. Whether it was the way I bumped a little bit higher up. So now you're bumping a little bit higher up, but you're doing it off ladders. I don't know. It's tough to fully pinpoint because at the time, your hands would be bruised, your elbows would be bruised, your joints would be sore just from taking the ladders and the chairs and the tables. But it was just stuff like that. And I watched them back and I'm like, how did one of us not die with some of the stuff that we were able to pull off?
Straight up.
Because the margin for error, man, it was hair thin. And the fact that we all came out of it without something happening that night during a spot, it's still kind of incomprehensible to me, to be honest. What happened was, though, is you see throughout the years that those definitely, put some notches on our belts in terms of injuries, because by the time I was starting to really get into my groove as a singles, things were starting to crop up now. And I think it started with those matches.